Danielle grabbed a cake knife at her own baby shower, pointed it at my pregnant belly, and screamed, "This is my day." When I told her to calm down, she snarled, "You stole my life and my babies." I just stared at her. That was 9 months ago. Last week, police found a fully furnished nursery in a storage unit with my twins' names painted on the walls. I was walking across the stage of Buffalo University, ready to collect my degree, when I heard my sister scream at the top of her lungs. Melissa had collapsed to the floor and was hyperventilating. The entire ceremony was shut down. Paramedics rushed in. You see, she'd always been an attention-seeking hoe. During my first piano recital when I was 12, she fainted in the front row. Prom night when I was crowned queen, fake heart attack scare, every single monumental event. And it wasn't until 3 years later, when I got the invite to her baby shower, that I finally saw an opportunity to bite back. My husband was beside me when I opened it, and I immediately started rubbing up against him. "We're trying for a baby," I whispered into his ear. "Really? I thought we were waiting." "Now, we're trying now." The math was specific. I had maybe 3 cycles to get pregnant for the timing to work. Her party was in 3 months. I had to act fast. First test, negative. I stared at that single line. Second month, negative again. I was lying in the dark room with gel on my belly when the ultrasound tech went quiet. "Move the wand around." "Congratulations, it's twins." I laughed. Actually laughed. The next few months I became Melissa's biggest cheerleader. Anything to get her hyped up for what that hoe thought would be her big moment. "Oh my gosh girl, you need a countdown on Instagram. I'll design it." I posted daily. 5 months until my sister becomes a mom. I insisted on inviting everyone I knew, promising that they'd all bring her gifts and attention. I knew I was doing the right thing when she posted her baby name online. Delphine Aurora, a name I'd written in my diary when I was 15, a name I'd never told a soul about. That beach had gone through my room. So when the morning of her party arrived, I smiled extra sweet while curling her hair. And when she started getting all emotional, it took everything not to burst out laughing. If only one of us got to be pregnant, I'm glad it's me. Even mom said it's better this way since I'm the prettier sister. The photos will actually be worth framing. You know what I mean? I applied her lipstick carefully. "You deserve this." "No interruptions this time," she responded. "This is my day." "Absolutely." Well, if there's one thing my beach sister can do, it's to plan a good party. There were beautiful balloons everywhere. A 3-tier cake. Even though everyone already knew from her post it was a girl, she insisted on doing the whole reveal performance again. I wore a loose dress, but you could see my bump if you looked hard enough. Nobody was looking at me though. Not yet. Or so I thought. Until Melissa pulled our mom aside. "God, look at Sarah. She's gotten huge. If I didn't know better, I'd think she was the pregnant one." Mom laughed. "Well, you've always been the thin one, honey. Good thing too for the photos." When they were finally done giggling, the countdown started. 3, 2, 1, pop. Pink confetti everywhere. "It's a girl," Melissa screamed. Everyone cheered. Cameras flashed. TBH. I was ready to stand up and ruin the entire mood with my announcement. But that's when my morning sickness hit. Hard. I ran to the bathroom, hand over mouth. When I came back out, everyone was staring at me with concern. The words came tumbling out. Sorry, I said, flustered. "It's just the twins. They've been making me so sick. 6 weeks with twins and I can't keep anything down." The silence was deafening. Then the explosion. "Twins?" Aunt Martha shrieked. "Oh my gosh, Sarah!" The crowd shifted like a tide. Away from Melissa, toward me. Hands reached for my belly. Questions bombarded me from every direction. "When did you find out? Do twins run in your family? Are they identical?" Melissa's face went from pink to red to purple. I watched her chest start heaving. I braced myself for the performance. I can't breathe," she gasped, clutching her chest. "Someone, help!" But everyone was around me. Even her own husband was asking me about twin strollers. "Hello?" Melissa screamed. "I'm having a panic attack. This is my party." Mom glanced over, annoyed. "Melissa, honey, not now. Sarah's having twins at her first pregnancy." That's when Melissa lost it. Actually lost it. She grabbed the cake knife and for a second I thought this was how I'd die. Death by baby shower. "This is my day!" she screamed, mascara running. "Mine! I've been trying for 3 years!" Ryan grabbed Melissa's wrist and twisted the knife out of her hand while she stood there frozen, her whole body shaking like she was having a seizure. The knife clattered onto the floor and kicked under the dessert table as Melissa's legs gave out completely. She dropped to her knees and started wailing so loud that the neighbors probably heard it 3 houses down. Her mascara ran down her face in thick black streams while she pounded her fists on the floor screaming that I ruined everything, that I always ruin everything, that this was supposed to be her special day. Mom rushed over and wrapped her arms around Melissa, rocking her back and forth while completely ignoring me standing there in shock with my hand on my belly. At least 20 phones were pointed at us, everyone recording the whole meltdown like it was some kind of reality show. Ryan managed to get Melissa into a chair where she sat hyperventilating, her chest heaving up and down so fast I thought she might pass out. He whispered something in her ear over and over, probably trying to calm her down, while the rest of the guests just stood around awkwardly not knowing where to look or what to do. Daniel grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door, his face completely white. He asked if I was okay and said we needed to leave right now before things got worse. That's when Mom stormed over and slapped me hard across the face, the sound echoing through the whole room like a gunshot. She screamed that I was a selfish bitch who couldn't let Melissa have one single day without making it about me. The room went dead silent except for Melissa's crying, and I heard several people gasp at what just happened. My cheek burned like fire and I touched it without thinking, feeling the heat spreading across my face. Daniel stepped right between Mom and me, telling her to back the hell off or he'd call the cops himself. Grace appeared next to me and announced loud enough for everyone to hear that she was calling 911 if anyone else laid a hand on me. Nathan finally pushed through the crowd looking like he'd seen a ghost, staring at what his family had turned into. That's when Melissa suddenly bent over and threw up all over the floor, this gross yellow liquid splashing onto her expensive shoes. Ryan jumped up saying they needed to go to the hospital right now because she was having contractions from all the stress. Mom immediately pointed at me and yelled that if Melissa lost her baby, it would be my fault, her voice carrying across the entire backyard. Ryan helped Melissa stand up and started walking her toward their car, but she turned around and screamed that if she lost her baby, she'd make sure I lost mine too. At least 10 people had their phones out recording her threat, and Daniel grabbed my hand saying we were filing a police report immediately. We sat in Daniel's car in the parking lot while he called 911 to report the assault and the threat against our babies. I texted Grace asking her to save any videos from the party while my cheek throbbed and I could feel the twins moving around like crazy from all my stress. 2 cops showed up about 20 minutes later and took our statements. Watching the footage Grace and 3 other guests had saved on their phones. They took pictures of my red cheek and told us we should file for a restraining order first thing Monday morning. 3 hours later we were home and Daniel was making me chamomile tea while I sat on the couch trying to process everything that had happened. He sat down next to me and admitted he was scared of what Melissa might do next, suggesting we should stay with his parents for a few days just to be safe. I told him no way was I letting her drive me out of my own home after everything she'd done over the years. photos. My phone started blowing up with notifications as videos from the party went viral on TikTok and Instagram with hashtags like baby shower meltdown and psycho sister. Comments poured in calling Melissa crazy and mom abusive, while other people said I was wrong for announcing my pregnancy at her party, even if she had it coming. The doorbell started going off at 7 the next morning like someone was holding it down. Daniel jumped out of bed and looked through the peephole while I stayed under the covers. Carol stood there with her face all red and puffy from crying. She kept pressing the doorbell over and over and started pounding on the door with her fist. Daniel told me to stay back and open the door just a crack with the chain still on. Carol immediately stuck her fingers through the gap and tried to push it open while screaming about the videos. She demanded I come to the door and take everything down right now. Her voice got louder and louder until she was basically shrieking about how I'd ruined Melissa's life and destroyed our family. Daniel kept his shoulder against the door and told her she needed to leave. Carol started kicking the door and screaming that I was a monster who'd always been jealous of my sister. The neighbors started coming out of their apartments to see what was happening. Mrs. Chen from next door stood in her bathrobe recording everything on her phone. Carol saw all the people watching and started yelling even louder about how I'd planned everything to hurt Melissa. She said I was evil and had always wanted to destroy my sister's happiness. Daniel finally told her he was calling the police if she didn't leave immediately. How did Melissa know about that diary name from when Sarah was 15? That means she must have been sneaking through Sarah's stuff for years. I wonder if the twins moving around during all that stress is normal, or if babies can really feel. Carol backed away from the door but kept screaming from the hallway about how I'd regret this. She left after about 20 more minutes of yelling threats at our door. My phone rang an hour later with Nathan's name on the screen. His voice sounded completely exhausted when I picked up. He said Melissa was still in the hospital under observation, and the doctors were worried about her blood pressure. He begged me to come to a family meeting to work this out before things got worse. I could hear the desperation in his voice when he asked me to please just talk to them. I told him I'd only meet if it was somewhere public, and Daniel came with me. Nathan agreed and said we could meet at the Italian place downtown in 2 days. Those 2 days passed slowly with my anxiety getting worse by the hour. I couldn't stop worrying that all this stress was hurting the twins. My hands shook as I made an emergency appointment with my OBGYN. The waiting room was packed when we got there, and I noticed several women staring at me. One of them whispered to her friend and pointed at me with her phone out. They'd definitely seen the viral videos that were still spreading everywhere online. Dr. Torres called me back and did a full exam with the ultrasound machine. She moved the wand around my belly for what felt like forever while checking both babies. The twins were fine, but she warned me this level of stress was dangerous for all of us. She prescribed something mild for anxiety and told me to avoid any more confrontations. 2 days later, we walked into the restaurant for the family meeting. Carol, Nathan, Melissa, and Ryan were already sitting at a big table in the back. Melissa looked pale and had dark circles under her eyes, but she'd clearly done her makeup carefully. The second we sat down, Carol started demanding I apologize for everything. She said I needed to admit I'd planned the whole thing to hurt Melissa. Melissa sat there playing victim and wiping fake tears while saying I'd always been jealous of her. She claimed I couldn't stand that she was prettier and more loved by everyone. Ryan just sat there silently, but I saw him flinch when Melissa said that. Nathan tried to calm everyone down and suggested we all just move forward peacefully. Carol kept cutting him off and raising her voice about how I'd traumatized her pregnant daughter. Other people in the restaurant started looking over at our table. Melissa suddenly reached into her purse and pulled out a thick envelope. She slid it across the table with this nasty smirk on her face. I'm suing you for intentional infliction of emotional distress and endangering my baby. Her lawyer thought she had a really strong case and could get serious damages. Daniel immediately pulled out his phone and called his cousin Emma, who was a family lawyer. Melissa's face dropped when she heard him explaining the situation to an actual attorney. We left the restaurant with Carol still screaming threats behind us. That evening, Grace showed up at our door with wine for Daniel and chocolate ice cream for me. She'd seen everything online and wanted to check if we were okay. She sat on our couch and pulled out her phone to show us something. Grace had kept a folder of screenshots going back years documenting Melissa's attention-seeking behavior. There were photos from my high school graduation where Melissa pretended to faint, screenshots from my college acceptance party where she claimed chest pains, posts from my engagement dinner where she had a sudden allergic reaction to nothing, events I'd completely forgotten about where Melissa had stolen the spotlight with fake emergencies. Grace had been quietly collecting evidence of this pattern for years without telling me. A week after the baby shower, Daniel's cousin Emma came over to review Melissa's lawsuit. She read through the papers and actually started laughing at how ridiculous it was. Emma said it was completely frivolous and would get thrown out immediately. She suggested we countersue for assault since Carol had slapped me at the party. We could also sue for the threats Melissa made about our babies being recorded on video. Emma helped us prepare all the documentation we'd need for court. Having real legal support finally helped me sleep through the night for the first time since the party. We went to the county courthouse the next week to file for a restraining order. Emma came with us and brought printed screenshots of the threatening messages and videos from the party. The judge reviewed everything, including witness statements from the neighbors about Carol's screaming fit. He granted a temporary restraining order prohibiting both Carol and Melissa from coming within 500 feet of us. The order specifically covered our home, Daniel's workplace, and my doctor's office. Carol violated the restraining order within 48 hours by showing up at Daniel's office building. She walked right past security and started screaming at the receptionist to let her see Daniel. Security grabbed her and called the police while she fought and screamed about me destroying her family. The police arrested her and took her away in handcuffs while Daniel's coworkers watched from the windows. His boss called him into a meeting and suggested working from home until this situation was resolved. Daniel set up his office in our spare bedroom and started working remotely the next day. I woke up at 3 in the morning a few nights later to weird noises outside our bedroom window. My heart started racing as I crept over to peek through the blinds. Melissa's car was parked across the street just barely beyond the 500-foot limit. She was sitting in the driver's seat staring directly at our apartment building. I watched her for 20 minutes and she never moved or looked away from our windows. She stayed there for 3 more hours just watching our home in the darkness. Daniel installed security cameras the next morning covering every angle of our building. 2 weeks passed with Melissa parking just outside the camera range every single night. Nathan showed up at our door on a Tuesday afternoon looking like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot and his shirt was wrinkled like he'd worn it for 3 days straight. He slumped onto our couch and rubbed his face with both hands. Carol had been staying at their house since the baby shower and was driving Ryan absolutely crazy with her constant rants about me. Nathan said Ryan was thinking about filing for divorce because Melissa's obsession with destroying me was making her sick during her pregnancy. The stress was affecting their baby, and Ryan couldn't take it anymore. 3 days later, I went in for my 20-week anatomy scan at the hospital. The ultrasound tech moved the wand around my belly for what felt like forever, without saying anything. Dr. Torres came in and took over, measuring each twin over and over again. One twin was smaller than the the other, and needed closer monitoring every week from now on. The stress was literally affecting my baby's growth, and I couldn't stop the tears from coming. Daniel held me while I sobbed in that cold, dark room with gel still on my belly. That night, Grace called me in a panic while I was lying in bed. Someone had posted my medical information all over a local mom Facebook group, my doctor's name, the address of the clinic, even my appointment times for the next month. The post had screenshots of my medical chart showing I was having twins and my due date. Only someone with access to the hospital system could have gotten those records. Daniel immediately called hospital security while I called our lawyer on speakerphone. The lawyer said this was a serious federal crime and we needed to document everything right away. Emma called me the next morning with shocking news she discovered through her contacts at the medical center. Nathan's wife Linda worked in the billing department and had been accessing my records illegally for weeks. The hospital's IT department found her login accessing my files 17 times in the past month. Linda was escorted out by security that same afternoon and faced immediate termination. The hospital administrator called to apologize and said they were cooperating fully with the criminal investigation. Nathan showed up at our door again that evening completely devastated by what Linda had done. He had no idea she'd been helping Melissa and felt betrayed by his own wife. The next day I got a text from Ryan that made my hands shake as I read it. He was apologizing for Melissa's behavior.